There we go. So what we'll do is go around and do some quick introductions and really find out who's in the room. And I think many people know one another already, either directly through work that we've been doing together or peripherally because our organizations are in a similar space. And really just give everybody an opportunity to say who they are, the organization they're with, and I think just spend a minute or so talking about why you're here, whether it's from a personal perspective or from an organizational perspective. But why are you here as part of this endeavor to form a statewide gleaning network? We're really excited about it. So I'll start. David Bobanek, Harvest Against Hunger. We're based in Seattle, Washington. And the reason we're here is because several years ago, we started our Harvest Vista program in 2009, I believe it was. And when we first started that, we realized that we were going to be developing gleaning produce recovery programs those early years with hunger relief organizations exclusively, a lot of food pantries and food banks. And then it grew to thinking a little bit more holistically about food systems and the way we can impact food systems with our Harvest Vista team. So that included then partnerships with WSU Extension, a couple of conservation districts and others. And the reason that we're here and the reason that we're partnering with AGO on this is because while we recognize that we were able to facilitate and support the launch of a number of gleaning activities and produce recovery programs around the state, we recognize that we really dropped the ball as an organization on trying to find ways to facilitate broader organization among those groups. And that's all of you. You're all doing a lot of this great work. And so what we would like to do with this is to facilitate and support the formation of this network. We do not want to direct it, and nor do we want to be seen as the ones that are leading it and making the decisions and determinations about what this network can and should be. That's going to be something that we all determine collectively. Our role is really to provide support for these activities and create a space that we can develop this in. So part of that is that we have a Harvest Vista who is dedicated to supporting this network activity and programming activity. And that's Sarah Armbruster. And Sarah is, where'd you go, Sarah? She was here just a minute ago. Oh, there you are. Oh, you're way up there in the front. Okay, Sarah, if you'd just like to talk a little bit, Sarah just joined us last week and has really hit the ground running with this project. And so I'll turn it over to Sarah. And then Sarah, if you could turn it over to Sean.
Of course. Hi, guys. I'm Sarah. It's nice to meet you all. I'm looking forward to working with you. As David said, I'm a AmeriCorps member, working alongside David at Harvest Against Hunger and Sean at AGO, helping to develop the structure for our gleaning network in Washington State. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm a super foodie, and I'm really, really excited about developing something really just meaningful here in the state. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Sean.
Hey, it's great to be here, and it's great to see some faces I don't know. I think I might only know about half of you, which is really exciting for me. I love getting to know people who are doing gleaning work in all sorts of different capacities, and building that network. So I'm the founding member here at AGO, or the Association of Gleaning Organizations. And we work across North America to build the capacity of organizations who are doing gleaning work via trainings and via all sorts of other things. And the reason I'm here is because when my path crossed into running this association, it was an introduction to this idea of networks and partnerships and collaborations. And it's opened this whole world to me. And what I've come to realize is that true partnerships and true collaborations are really difficult to do. And they're incredibly powerful. And so if we can be really thoughtful about how we bring people together and how we weave and create the connections to build relationships with each other, to really go out and solve some of these really, really complex problems that we're working on. And what my realization is that if we want to talk about gleaning, and bring Gleaning to have a meaningful impact on our communities, there needed to be stronger collaboration and there needed to be better idea sharing. And so at AGO, we are huge proponents of networks. We're working to build networks across the US, but this is really a model for us to take and experiment with what those networks can look like. And so we're really excited to be working on this project with you all. And I love Gleaning because I think Gleaning has this potential to really do similar things as networks do, of bringing communities together, uniting them around a problem, building connections between farmers and food or eaters and food banks and all the institutions that are involved in our hunger relief system. And I love that piece of it. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I'll give it to David to pass to someone else, I guess.
Sure. Well, why don't we go straight to Kathy? And we'll stay with AGO, and then Yuki, maybe you can go next.
Great. I'm Kathy Sharp, and I support Sean as my role of program coordinator. So working behind the scenes to support this new project, working with Sarah and David at Harvest Against Hunger. So happy to meet you all and looking forward to the collaboration.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. And Yuki, do you want to go with Neighborhood Farmers Market, and then we'll go to Max?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yuki. I'm the food access coordinator at the Neighborhood Farmers Markets. And I'm here because at our markets, we host a lot of our gleaners and actually see a couple our gleaners here. So I'm really excited to learn how to better support our gleaners and provide that farmers market perspective, and that our facility any like vendor communications to provide that perspective. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Yuki. And yeah, it's been great partnering with NFM on a couple of different projects. So it's been terrific to work with. Max, and then we'll go with Rachel from Upper Valley Mend.
Hi, everyone. Max Morange with Bellingham Food Bank. Really thrilled to be part of this conversation today. I've worked with a number of the folks on this call for, gosh, almost 14 years now, through our Small Potatoes Gleaning Project or some of the other initiatives that are ag-oriented at Bellingham Food Bank. I primarily coordinate our gleaning project, but also our direct farm purchasing work, which has grown over the years alongside the gleaning project. And really love that gleaning in the context of a network like this really can run the gamut of subjects, from harvesting leftover plums or plums that would otherwise go to waste, all the way to pre-season contracts or purchases made directly from farms. I recognize the value in defining things somewhat narrowly to provide additional support, especially to new efforts, while at the same time recognizing that in the context of hunger relief and fresh food access, really having that broader definition leaves us with a lot of room for creativity.
Great. Thanks, Max. Rachel, and then Jordan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Bishop, and I work for Upper Valley Mend, which is in Leavenworth, Washington. And yeah, we are a human services nonprofit, so our food programs are only a part of what we do, but we have a food pantry in Leavenworth called the Community Cupboard, and we also have a gleaning program. And I'm excited about this network because we aren't aware of very many other gleaners in our part of the state. We do all the gleaning in the Wenatchee Valley, and we're also expanding into other parts of north central Washington. There's a lot to be gleaned. So maybe there's a possibility of creating more gleaning organizations or programs over here, partnering with West Side folks to get more gleaning done over here. That's why I'm here. So I'm excited about it. So thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, Emily, and then, I'm sorry, Jordan, and then how about Emily Penna?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Egbert. I'm the development manager at City Fruit, but I've also been the cleaning coordinator at City Fruit and served with Harvest Against Hunger as well at City Fruit, and worked at Upper Valley Mend as well. So it's great to be here and see all of you. And yeah, City Fruit's really just looking to try to expand our connections with the cleaning organizations. as much as we can on the west side as well as throughout the state. So happy to be here and yeah, learn more about the grant outcomes and yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. Emily, and then how about Andrea?
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Penna. I am with Fair Start. My colleague Ainsley was on the call, but she had to step off. Ainsley really oversees our gleaning program. I am on her team and do more project management and work. So just here to see how I can support Ainsley in tapping into this network and how we can all work together. We do gleaning at farms in the greater Seattle area with volunteers, and we incorporate those into both prepared meals and our mobile market just to reduce our food costs. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Andrea, and then how about Miranda?
Hi, I'm Andrea Blue, President and CEO of Making a Difference Foundation. We own Eloise Cooking Pot Food Bank in Pierce County. And Jessica Hannity is also on the line because I'll be actually stepping off. She runs our gleaning program along with Tanya Baumgarter, who was not able to make it today. We're excited just to see what everybody else is doing and see how we can collaborate with others that are doing the same work.
Thanks, Andrea. And Andrea, I fell down on finding the link to Madoff, and whether it's Eloise's Cooking Pot or Madoff, could you throw the link to your organization in the chat?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And now I forgot Miranda, and then
Awesome.
Morgan.
Thanks. Morning all, I'm Miranda. I work with the King Conservation District as the Community Agriculture Coordinator. And then I also serve on the board of the Association of Gleaning Organizations. So I'm really excited to be here. I work with a lot of community gardens and farmers that participate in gleaning and donating to food banks. So I'm really interested to see how the King Conservation District and conservation districts more broadly can interact in this space and support a statewide gleaning network. And then also from my work with AGO, just excited to be here and supporting this project.
Thanks, Miranda. Okay, Morgan, and then how about Catherine Mirvold?
Hey everyone, my name's Morgan. Sorry, I'm having some issues with my camera, so I apologize. But I'm the executive director at Skagit Gleaners, which is one of, for our area, one of the most robust cooperative gleaning programs in the Skagit County region. And for those of you that are not familiar with Skagit County, we are naturally a very, very agriculturally rich community. In fact, we ranked number 9 in like crop output for our nation. And it's just, well, I mean, Washington State ranks number 9 in general. And a lot of that comes from Skagit County. We're a worldwide crop contributor in beet seed, table seed, cabbage seed, and strawberries as well. So we're here for that. And then we just developed a very comprehensive partnership with our TFAP, EFAP contract holder in the community. So we will be piloting a program with the TFAP, EFAP contract holder about gleaning models and developing a pretty robust kind of blueprint that can be provided to other food banks and how they can develop successful gleaning programs and just starting to do that work. So hopefully being able to use some of the information that we get here as well. And then the third thing is I'm also a board member for the Association of Gleaning Organizations. So I'm here as a supporting board member as well. And I'm just really excited to be here. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Morgan. Catherine, and then how about Jessica?
Hi, everybody. I'm a bit unwell, so I have my camera off this morning. I hope you understand. I'm here from the supply side representing farms and farmers. I'm the sales and education manager at Viva Farms. We're a nonprofit farm business incubator. And so I work with about 35 farm businesses who participate in our programs. And I also run a half-acre student farm with some of my coworkers here. And then I'm also on the board over at the Puget Sound Food Hub. So just in those two roles, I have a lot of connections to the farming community. And I'm here really just to listen in, to stay in the loop about what's going on. I know in my role at Viva Farms, I'm oftentimes in a position where I'm maybe sitting on some extra produce because of our CSA program or some kind of a wholesale mishap, or, just for whatever reason. And so informally, I have kind of a short list of people that I reach out to when that comes up, just to try to keep food from getting wasted and to channel it into the community. But I'd like to formalize those efforts a bit more. And, I'd like to make sure that what my coworkers and I are doing, that those efforts kind of have a better system, in the future, just in case of staff turnover. It's not something that's really a formal part of our mission, but it is very aligned with our mission. And so I'd like to just, stay in the loop and participate however we can.
Yeah, and it's Catherine, we're so glad that you're here. I think it's really important for moving forward with this to have that voice and that recognition from the farm side as well. That's going to be, I think, a really helpful tool in developing a broader, more robust network up here. So thanks for being here. Okay, Jessica, and then how about Michael?
Good morning. So I'm in Tacoma, Washington. I'm connected with Harvest Pierce County's Gleaning network, and mostly focused on harvesting homeowners' fruit trees and donating them to local food banks as part of the Pierce Conservation District. And then last year I was hired by Making a Difference Foundation to connect local farmers to their food bank. And as part of that, I would go out to the farms and harvest, wash, bunch, pack, and deliver the produce. And Making a Difference Foundation made the investment in these harvest lugs that match Harvest Pierce County's lugs. That way, when people come to donate, they can just be really efficient, just drop, grab, go. And with that partnership with them, we also have access to their gleaning network for their gleaning volunteers if there's a farmer that's in a tight spot and just really needs help. So I'm just really excited about building the community and connections, feeding more people.
That's great. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, and again, another one of those conservation district partners. We've got some strong partners also with like Kitsap Conservation District that are very involved in gleaning, and I think there's a lot to be learned from the conservation districts and the approach that those folks take in kind of that whole system. So Michael, and then Emily Himstrup.
Hi, my name is Mike from the White Center Food Bank. I'm operations director here. We just are starting our gleaning program. So Yuki invited us to start gleaning from the West Seattle market. So we're really excited about that. So I guess we're just here to kind of learn and try to jump on some of these other opportunities and grow the program.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, hiya, Emily. And then I think Scott will wrap us up and then we'll move on from there. Thanks, everybody. This has been great.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily. I use she, her pronouns, and I work at Solid Ground to support the Seattle Food Committee, which is a coalition of 28 or 29 Seattle area food banks. And so just really excited we heard about this meeting yesterday in the WSDA call, and we're really excited to hear more about a potential like gleaning associate or network in Washington. I know quite a few of our member agencies, food banks and food pantries that currently like take advantage or take part in gleaning programs. And I guess I'm a little bit curious about ways that maybe it could be a more like organized or coalition-wide effort. So yeah, really excited to be here and hear more.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, I'm really glad you were able to join us today. I think it's one of the things that I'm just very curious from my perspective is we've got such a broad range of different types of programs that potentially could be involved in this network. I think that'll be one of the real strengths and kind of founding characteristics of this group. So really excited to have everybody here. Okay, Scott, I believe you are the final one, and then we'll turn it over to the next part of our agenda. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. I am on a cell phone in a parking lot with very poor connection. So I don't have my video on, just trying to keep everything stable. Yeah, so I'm Scott with Volunteers of America. I've been with our hunger prevention team as the new senior director since November. And I am learning a whole lot about hunger prevention, but also very interested in gleaning. I'm trying to look for ways to bring a greater variety of items to our food banks to increase the overall supply of what we do so we have more people we can reach. VOA also serves as the lead organization for TFAP for Snohomish County, and we work with the Snohomish County Food Bank Coalition as well. And so really interested in not only learning for our own food banks, how to provide better service and a greater variety of service, and to engage the community overall, but looking at how do we then take that learning and perhaps multiply that out to other food banks in the community.
Fantastic, Scott. Thank you so much. And everybody, again, thanks. I'm really excited to see where we go from here. Now I'll turn it over to Sean to talk a little bit more, kind of on a grand overview of like how we got to where we are today. So Sean, over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to take a minute to talk about how we got here, and take a minute and talk about what the focus of this grant is as I tie it all together. What's the deliverables on this funding piece? So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go from there. Oops. So this is a USDA Regional Food Systems Partnership Planning Grant. And Augur began to look at how we could build networks about 2.5 years ago, and what we could do to build more regional networks, and took a look at the existing regional networks for gleaning organizations within the country, and began to sort of seek some funding for this. And when this cycle of Regional Food Systems Partnership grants opened up, Washington immediately came to mind for us. And the reason that is because you guys have the highest concentration of gleaning happening of any state in the US. And even before this call, I think you had the highest number of gleaning organizations. But there's, I think 3 or 4 of you who I've heard on this call, and I said, oh, I didn't realize they were doing gleaning. And so you weren't on our radar. And as David has worked through this, I think, that we now have a list of like 35, 40-ish organizations who want to explore what this network looks like. And so, that's where we ended up picking Washington State. What are we planning? I don't know what this network will look like. What the grant purpose is to take a moment and take a look at what a regional network could look like, what resources would be needed to create a regional network, and how could that network expand the reach and impact of gleaning within the state. And so those are some of the big questions we're going to be exploring together as a group. As David mentioned earlier, neither us nor Harvesting Against Hunger have some grand scheme of what this network will look like, or what we don't want to be imposing our direction on this. We want to help you guys discover what will be most helpful for you. So we'll introduce you over the course of this grant to some other organizations, and help you think through this. But we're here to support whatever you guys decide is the best fit for you gleaners in your region. We have a couple big objectives. There's actually 4 of them. There's a lot of words up there. But the first one is really to define what the reach and scope of this network can look like. As I just talked about, what does a regional network look like? In order to do that, Sarah's going to be conducting a network assessment to define the strengths, weaknesses, and gaps and opportunities that really exist in the gleaning space in Washington. We'll talk about how that's going to happen in just a second. We really want that to be a really collaborative process with you and your stakeholders. And then once all of that's done, we're going to develop an implementation plan for this network. and that will reach increase your capacity and reach as gleaning organizations, and really figure out how gleaning will fit into the larger hunger relief landscape in the Washington State area. And then, we've promised that we'll share these with the wider gleaning community. AGRO is really interested to see how this network develops. We're supporting several other networks, but you guys will be probably the first that ends up from like this contemplation stage, I guess maybe that's the right word, to actual launch. So, but there's a couple other objectives. We want an increase in pounds gleaned in Washington State, so we'll be reaching out to you to do some tracking of where you're at now, so we can use that as a baseline towards the end. And we spent a lot of time today letting you guys get to know each other. We're going to spend a lot of time helping you get to know each other. That's because neither David or I or Kathy or Sarah are the experts on gleaning. You guys are. And so if you're going to have real impact on expanding and growing your reach, we have to connect you to each other to share your ideas and insights. There's 30 organizations experimenting and learning and growing out there. And we really want you to share that with each other. And we're hoping to have at least 16 organizations engaged in this project. I think we're going to far exceed that goal. There's more than that on the call today. So, yeah. So some of the activities, we're going to be holding regular scheduled meetings. There's 3 purposes of these meetings. It's to provide training and assistance to you guys. It's to connect you guys to each other. And it's to help explore what a network will look like. So these will be 10 annual calls. We won't meet in August. We know that's a crazy month for you, all of you gleaning. We're going to meet early in July, and hopefully before you get just swamped. And then we'll come back at it in September, probably a bit later in the month, and finish out the year. And we won't meet in December either. For some of you, that might be an easy month, but for some of our smaller organizations, you may be doing annual fundraising. You may be there could be a lot that's going on there, and so we're just going to take a break. 3 of these will be network calls. We're going to talk to other organizations who are running networks and talk to some network formation experts. We're going to do some technical assistance calls. We have a vast network of 180-ish gleaning organizations across North America. If you guys wanted to explore and discover and learn about how to do something, we probably know someone who knows how to do that really well. And so we'll be working with you all to figure out the things you want to learn. And then we'll bring in our expertise to bring in those experts to have these conversations. We know that one of the reasons we're coming together is to learn from each other and get better at what we're doing. And, as a side note for that, if any of you ever on this call or any of you doing gleaning want to connect on some issue, I know, that, hopefully you'll connect with others on these calls, but also I'm always available to make those connections and provide that information to you. The second activity is we're going to conduct network area interviews with food systems representatives. So we didn't want to figure out what a gleaning network would look like by just talking to gleaning organizations. We want to talk to distribution sites that you're working with. We want to talk to farmers. We want to talk to volunteers. So Sarah will be in touch with you to build a call list. We want to host around 100 of these calls, anywhere from 80 to really 120, 130 of these calls over the next 8 or 9 months to help us understand what gleaning looks like. We have some stipends available to folks who participate in those calls too, that we'll be able to go out to them. So we really want to incentivize people who maybe don't have a lot of time in their lives, or people who aren't commonly talked to in these type of conversations. So this will be again something that Sarah and I and David will be working with all of you to figure out who's the best folks to talk to. And then we'll do some individual regional needs conversations. These are with you as gleaning organizations. So I'll be reaching out to have conversations with each of you to talk about what's working and what's not working. And I'm imagining Sarah will join me for some, if not all of those calls. So you get a chance to visit with us and share that information. And then, oops, doesn't want to advance. This will all be used to create that implementation plan we talked about earlier. And then next year in 2014, we'll be bringing our annual Gleaning conference. It's the annual International Gleaning Symposium to Seattle. We hosted in Seattle in 2019, which was the launch of our network. And we're excited to come back for the launch of your guys' network. We'll be bringing tons of expertise and resources to that event. And then we'll, in year 2, we'll be preparing the network creation report and sharing those results out. So what we're asking of each of you is to attend the majority of these meetings. The way we build relationships, the way we hear all the voices and we keep everyone on the same page, if we all do our best to attend these meetings. We're asking that you'll participate in these network assessment calls. You'll help us invite your contacts and networks to participate in those calls that are needed. You'll help us develop these questionnaires for network assessment as we think about what questions we should be asking people. We'll be asking you for your feedback. And then invite others that are gleaning to join this network or interested in gleaning. And please offer your feedback where possible and leadership in this proposed network. This can't be something that's just sustained by us. As we exit this project, our plan is if you guys decide you want to create a network and there's resources needed, the AGO will then go out and help find and raise those funds to build that continuing network. So we think these calls will be insightful and helpful and informative to you. There will be many of them are focused on learnings that we think will help build your organization and build your community impact. You're going to build stronger connections in your community. We have travel stipends for the 2024 symposium for organizations. So our goal is for all of you who participate in this to be able to attend. So we'll do our best to make that available and accessible to everyone in this network from across the state. And then we have stipends. We have $1,800 stipends for organizations who need support to participate in the training calls. We have 20 of those that can be given out. And so if you're, what we know about gleaning, organizations that do gleaning, and what we're guessing is true about Washington, is that there's a vast array of size and reach of organizations. And some of you may not need stipends. You may have, the award, the funding to participate, but we really want to hear from those organizations that are really small. One of the things we found that in our gleaning census in 2020 is that organizations that were doing gleaning, 50% operate on budgets under $30,000 a year. And I think it's like 30% operate on budgets under $10,000 a year. So these are really, really small groups. So we want to make sure that this was accessible to them. We didn't just want to hear from large food banks and large organizations that are well funded. We wanted to hear from the grassroots startup organizations as well. And then there's a Google site to share some information. I'm going to let Kathy walk us through that. Kathy, are you still here?
Yes, Sean, thank you very much. Let me put the URL for the site in the chat right now.
And I'll stop share so you can.
And then I will share it. Thanks
Sure.
very much. Okay, so the URL is now in the chat. Let me share my screen. There we go, Regional Gleaning Network. Okay, so all of you should be able to now see the screen, and you've got the URL in the chat. So we've put together a simple website that will help us all stay connected and communicate. And so you're seeing the homepage here. Let me just reduce this, and so we're not looking at ourselves. And so this is just a simple website that we'll be adding to over time. It gives a brief explanation, as Sean has gone into, about what is the grant. We've got a copy of the grant application. a copy of our initial project plan. We've got a link to the Google folder that has some key documents, a link to the project calendar, and shortly, when I conclude, we're going to be talking about the meeting cadence. And then we've got a list here of potential partner organizations. As we build out this site, the intention is to have a one-stop shop where you'll be able to come back and refer to previous meetings. So after we conclude this meeting, we'll be able to post the presentation, the meeting recording, the attendance. When we've developed survey instruments, we can have the link to the survey instrument here. And it's a way for us all to stay connected. As I said, this is just a simple site to get started. Your input is going to be really helpful to make it something that's meaningful for this group. And I'll be working with Sarah behind the scenes to make sure that it's always up to date. You can also reach me and Sean, I'm admin at gleaners.org. Sean, did you want me to cover anything else?
No, unless you felt like I forgot something. I was going to say, David or Kathy, did I forget anything as I tried to run over a 50-page grant?
Yeah, no, I think, well, no, that was very helpful. I think it's instructive just to kind of remind ourselves what we want to accomplish with this. And for those of you who have participated in some of our farm to community work and maybe our Harvest Vista work, that Google site method will be pretty familiar to you, and you'll see how this site will grow based on the needs of everybody that's participating here. And, you know, it's a work in progress, and it will continue to be a work in progress, as it should be. I mean, that's why these websites that we develop like this seem to be really good tools for this sort of activity. And no, that was terrific. So thank you both very much. And I think at this point, Sarah, I think you're the next person to talk a little bit about the Washington State goals for food reduction and Gleaning network.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I will try to share. Oh, sorry, I'm doing a really bad job of this. Ah, good, you got it up. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Technical problems. All right, so you guys, y'all might be aware already that Washington State has for a few years now initiated plans for combating food insecurity, reducing food waste. The first one is the Food Waste Reduction Act, which was passed in 2019. And there was another one passed in 2022 called the Use Food Well Washington Plan. And they're both statewide interventions that prevent and reduce the amount of edible food wasted, increasing food donations, rescue and recovery, and especially important for us right now to improve food recovery infrastructure. I will drop the links in the chat here to those if anyone's interested in looking them over, but I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, so to speak, but I think we can all agree there's an incredible need for what we do, and that there's a really fantastic opportunity right now for us to make a greater impact. And we see that a Gleaning network is makes a really important role in creating this infrastructure. We'd be able to network for lobbying changes for local policies, to provide a space to share ideas and support and resources, as well as helping funders understand the importance and impact of our Gleaning efforts. I think we would be stronger together, and we could start to meet the goals of Washington State and our goals here to help provide those in need with access to healthy and local food. So I'm really excited about this, you guys. If you do have a chance to look over those, I know they're kind of boring legal documents, but there's some really interesting information. And like I said, I feel like it's a phenomenal opportunity here for us. So just briefly on that, and I'll hand it back over to Sean.
Well, I want to pause for a second and just see, was there any questions or comments about what was shared before I move and take us into next steps? Just wanted to take a check-in. Jessica, it looked like maybe you're trying to talk, but maybe you weren't. I couldn't tell. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I'm just a fidgeter.
That's fine. Max, go ahead.
Yeah, Sean, I thank you so much. As we've been talking, I've been thinking about some other efforts in Whatcom County in northwestern Washington that may or may not have been aware of this call. And I wonder, in the context of this specific grant, if the Regional Food Systems Partnership lens through which this work is being focused has identified parameters of what exactly defines gleaning. I sort of introed how Bellingham Food Bank does that broadly in the context of both rescuing food from farms, but also our farm purchasing work, our farmers market work, et cetera. And I know there are other organizations that say work with grocery stores and call that gleaning. Do you have any sort of specific parameters that might help us figure out how to appropriately invite other colleagues in our regions?
Yeah, so this is a great question. It's one that we have grappled with a lot. Is how are you going to define gleaning? And I will say, for most of our member organizations, and AGO is a member-led, member-run organization. And most of those member organizations are in that very same boat you talked about, Max, where they're doing all sorts of food rescue. And so, you know, the gambit of what is gleaning and what is food rescue, and that line is really blurry. And everyone probably has their own definition. At AGO, we've defined who we seek to work with is organizations who harvest food directly from a plant or get it directly from someone who harvested it from a plant. And I would say that almost all our members, I can't think of anyone who doesn't do at least a little bit of direct from plant harvesting. You know, there are some who do primarily farmers market rescue, or we call it after harvest rescue, where they're primarily going to farms and picking up harvested food. But all of them do at least some small bits of harvesting from plants. But we, you know, if we're open at AGO to having members who just do farmers market rescue or who just do aftermarket rescue. I just don't know that we currently have any members that fit that space. We actually were sitting in Harvest Against Hunger's office as we were having this conversation. I can sort of picture it. And one of the things we decided on is that we wanted to be a smaller tent within that larger tent. And if you try to go too large and incorporate all of food rescue, it dilutes it a little bit. So that would be the advice I would give you. Where you guys land will be up to you. We're actually doing a similar, or in the very, very early stages of a similar project to this in New York. And that will probably end up being a broader food rescue network where gleaning will just play a small part in it, but it's up to you.
Yeah, and I would second that. We really do want this. I mean, as an organization, we certainly work with different groups and different communities that really have defined gleaning and produce recovery in a number of different ways. And so, yeah, if there will be probably a point in time a little bit later where we're going to have that conversation about what exactly do we want this work to look like and be represented. But I think maybe initially it might be better for us to have a broader focus and then start to think about, you know, who may or may not be a really good fit for what ultimately we want this direction of the entity to be. Sorry, Catherine, I talked right over you. You raised your hand.
No problem. I just had a quick question. If I know somebody who I think might be a good fit for this group to join, who should I direct them to?
I would suggest that Sarah drop her email address in the chat. It's just gleaning at harvestagainsthunger.org. But Sarah's the one who's going to be primarily helping to develop and build that list.
Great. Any other thoughts or questions or concerns? So as I mentioned, I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. This is the first of a series of calls that will take us through July. We're going to host 5 additional calls. My hope is that the rest of these calls will be a bit more interactive. This was a chance to get to know each other, but we expect that these will be calls where you're really getting a chance to interact. And I don't like to talk for more than about 5 minutes before I hear from someone else. So that will be the scope of many of the rest of the calls. So a brief outline is we'll be in March, we're going to be talking through what does a network look like, what are the values that networks can have, and then exploring together what networks can bring to the table and really having an interactive conversation about that. And then in April and May, we're going to bring in 2 additional Gleaning network experts that you can, experts, I'll call them experts, I think they are. These are 2 folks who are not only leading great Gleaning organizations, but are running statewide networks. So we'll be hearing from Teresa Snow with Salvation Farms about the Vermont Gleaning Collective. And then we'll be hearing from Nikki Ross from Table to Table in Iowa about the Iowa Gleaning Collective or Gleaning Network. And they're very different, and you'll get a chance to learn and ask questions about those and think about those. And then we'll be coming back together to have some more conversations about where we want to go, how we can work together, what are some of the challenges that we're facing as Gleaning, and really just begin to talk together and work together and think together about what this process will look like. In the meantime, if you want or have questions or concerns, I've dropped my email somewhere in the chat before, but probably also can go on the Google site so you have all this contact. There's a contact list that's going on that Google site that has everyone who's expressed some interest in here, or not a contact list, but a list of everyone. We'll probably start to compile a contact list of people who are comfortable sharing that, and we'll put that on that Google site. But if you know someone who's not part of this conversation yet, please reach out to them, connect them with Sarah so that we can bring them in. And we'll be in touch in the next couple of weeks with several different asks from us. That's I think everything. I can't see the agenda and share screen, so did I miss anything in there, David?
No, you got it. I think just to reiterate that last point, Sean, and maybe some of the conversation we were having leading up to that is we really want to be conscious of the fact that we find out who's not here and who needs to be here. We've got a pretty complete list of what we think are people that we've reached out to in a number of different ways, but take a look at that list. And if you, from your perspective and the work that you do in your community and organizations that you work with, say, why isn't so-and-so here? Let us know, because again, we want to make sure that we're reaching out to as broad a group as we possibly can, and making sure that we're representing everybody and their perspectives in this endeavor.
Yeah, and in that same vein, just reiterating, if you need support to participate in these calls, you can reach out to myself or Kathy, and we'll facilitate a conversation about our expectations and how we might be able to offer that support to you in the form of a stipend that will make this more accessible. David or Kathy, or Sarah, any closing thoughts you want to share?
Just a logistics. Someone was having problems accessing the site. So if you have any access issues, I'm admin@gleaners.us, and I'll try to troubleshoot that for you. I'll put my email in the chat.
And again, I just, from our perspective as an organization, really thank everybody for taking the time out of your day today to check in on this. We know it was not necessarily a clearly defined conversation, but hopefully it was helpful for you, and you'll continue to be engaged in this process. And would love to open the floor to if anybody has any questions or comments or additional thoughts. We've got about 5 minutes left, and want to make sure that we're providing some forum for people to share.
While you're thinking of those thoughts, I just want to reiterate what David said. It can be a little bit like mind-boggling to try to like join something that's undefined. And I appreciate all of you joining in for this, and I appreciate your willingness to like explore this together and shape it. But then I encourage all of you to make this your own. I know a bit about gleaning, but I know very little about gleaning in Washington. You guys are the experts, you know your needs there. So let's make this a tool that fits your guys' needs. And that only works when all of you make it your own.
All right.
I just have a
Great
quick
job.
question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but is anyone else from the east side of the Cascades in this group? I don't think so. Or does anyone do any work on the east side of the Cascades? Yes.
There were some folks that had signed up for this and that will be receiving the recording. But thinking of like Okanagan Community Action Council, they are going to probably be getting this recording, and then there are a couple of others. But yeah, I think an emphasis on what we can do in Eastern Washington. I know we've had some VISTA programs there in the past, and want to make sure that because it can be very different. Western Washington versus Eastern Washington. What does gleaning look like, and what do those activities look like, and what are the needs, et cetera. So yeah, Rachel, if in your travels you can recommend anybody, please pull them in. This goes back to the who's not here conversation.
Yeah.
Jessica.
Rachel, I'm going to drop my email in the chat. Some of the farms and organizations that we work with are on the east side. So I've got some connections too.
Great. Okay, we're up to our time. So
Thanks again for everyone for coming. Have a great snowy day.
Hopefully not too much. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.